Really appreciate the Daytona team, of course, for putting this together. My name is Han. I am one of the co-founders of Mintlify. And for those of you who might not be too familiar with Mintlify, we help companies build AI-native documentation. So for example, if you might have come across, let's say, the Anthropic docs, the Coinbase docs, Microsoft launched a new Foundry product for their AI services, their docs, the Perplexity developer guides, or any of the 10,000 companies that we work with, you've already come across a Mintlify-powered site. Collectively, we power, across all of our docs, content that reaches over 100 million people every single year. But last month, we asked ourselves a really simple question, which is, what percentage of viewership of all the docs across all of our customers are now AI agents instead of humans? So we went through all of our data, all of our logs, combed through billions of requests, picking up what we could from user agent headers, IPs, to, again, just take a best approximation of what percentage of traffic are now from AI agents. And here's what we found. I don't know if everyone can see that, but this is a graph of the gray line representing total viewership of actual viewers across all Mintlify sites, and the green line represents AI agents. At the end of 2025, so a few months ago, just under 50% of all documentation traffic across all the sites that we cover is from AI agents and crawlers. About 50%. I'm just going to let that sink in for a second. Because for context, it went up from just about 15% at the end of 2024, and now it's just about half of all viewership. Now, what that means is that the docs that you have or the docs that you read are not just for humans anymore. They're for humans and for agents alike. And if you think about it, I mean, ask yourself a simple question. How often are you scrutinizing the docs, reading the exact implementation details, the guides, compared to just describing your exact issue on Cursor or Claude Code, and it goes ahead and reads the docs and implements it for you? Sure, for a lot of people who are doing this pretty frequently, I would say more often than not these days. But what we also see is that if this trend continues at the rate that it has been, it'll start to look eventually like 10% humans, 90% for agents, and we assume that's going to happen by some point by the end of this year. And that's a pretty big shift, of course, in what documentation is for. So your docs, which used to be a resource for developers to figure out how your product works, is now really just a database for an AI agent to understand your product and decides if and how it can use it. So if your docs are incomplete, as an example, or out of date, as they commonly are, or if they simply don't exist, well, the agent moves on, right? Your product is invisible to them. So surfacing your product works has never mattered more in general. But here's the problem. Writing docs is, well, the last thing a lot of people want to do. And it's not that people don't really understand why they matter. It's that creating them from scratch, as I'm sure many of you know, is quite a hassle. It's tedious. It's time-consuming. And well, as engineers, it's not really what we do. So we asked ourselves, what if we didn't have to? And so last week, we launched fully autonomous auto-generated docs with Daytona. And here's how it works. If you have an open source repo on GitHub, you can simply replace the github.com URL with mintlify.com, and it will auto-generate production-grade ready docs for your users. And in fact, instead of this video, let's actually see this live. So right now I have here with me, this is OpenClaw's GitHub repo, which of course is one of the most popular GitHub repos of all time. If you simply go to github.com, the URL, and we were to replace, instead of GitHub, let's just say mintlify.com, and you hit enter. In the background, we spin up a Daytona instance, ports over a coding agent to scan over the entire content of the code base, and it goes ahead and writes the entire docs and basically puts it up onto a Mintlify site. So everything that you're seeing here is fully auto-generated, and it describes exactly what OpenClaw does. Again, built for users, ready for production. Let's take another example here. We have, this is the React, the classic React GitHub repo. Again, you can simply take that, replace the GitHub URL with mintlify.com. And, oh, did I spell that right? There we go. And it spins up the entirety of the React docs here as well. I say all this because we at Mintlify believe that documentation is more important than ever because they are not just for people, but for AI systems acting on people's behalf. And we are building towards the future of how your product gets read and understood by agents. So if you have an open source repo and are interested in trying out Mintlify or Mintlify in general, feel free to just take any of that, replace it with a mintlify.com domain, and see the magic happen. So, of course, we'd appreciate your feedback, and give it a try. Thanks so much, everyone.